And then, right, one of the things about St. Francis, right, we, have a beautiful church and a beautiful place and all of these things. But, one of the things that has just been interesting to me, when we come in for worship, right, what's the most important thing we do? Worship Jesus Christ, truly present in the Blessed Sacrament. Like that is what we do. That's what Sunday is about. That is who we are as people. Source and summit of Christian life. There's no other way to put it. Right? Yet, the source and summit of our Christian life, right, when we come into the church, what's in the very center of the church? The altar, then me, which I like being the center of attention, but it's not proper, and then the risen Lord. Right? Instead of the source and summit of Christian life being in the very summit of our church, right, we have an altar and me and a depiction of the risen Lord. It's not proper to the right worship. Right? The priest is not supposed to be in the middle. It's just not supposed to be. Right? The priest, the altar and the tabernacle should be on the same level. One step down should be the priest, the servers, and the ambo. Right? That's proper altar placement. Right? So we want to move the tabernacle. We want to move Jesus Christ, whom we worship, to the center where he deserves and belongs to be. Right? We want to redo all the stairs. Who's an extraordinary minister? Right? How treacherous is it coming down those stairs? Right? Even the altar servers have a hard time. Right? It is not. Those need to be destroyed and redone. Right? Because it's not safe. And Deacon MC is one of the holiest people I've ever met. And when he goes up and down those stairs, I have to close my eyes, especially when he's carrying the ciborium or whatever. It just scares me. I see extraordinary ministers coming up and down, and I'm like, oh, right? So that just needs to be done regardless. But that requires tearing out the entire altar area, just all by itself, right? And the altar itself, the actual, I hate to use this term, I'm going to use it, the table part, right, is way, way too small. That's why we can't have the book and the ciborium on the table at the same time. That's why Deacon MC and Deacon Tom and I, right, are bumping into each other all the time. Right? We are a parish of 3,000 people that come on a Sunday. We have an altar that is 5 feet. 5 feet. Crazy. Right? My altar in Pilot Point was 9 feet. And our parish held 400 people. It's just too small. And there were times even in Pilot Point, I'm like, so, right, that's going to be, I think, 8 feet, our new altar, the actual thing. The altar has very specific canon law. Now, I'm not talking about civil law or ADA law, right, canon law. The canon law is the law of the Catholic Church. It says it should be immovable, which means it can't be moved, right? It says it should have a stone. So the top part of the thing is actually called the mesa, which who knows Spanish? That means table. And material of particular beauty in the rest. It can be wood, it can be rock, it can be marble, it can be whatever. So, right, but it has a stone top with a relic in it. At least one relic. At least one relic. So, our altar, guess what it's made of? Pressboard and laminate. I'm not making that up. Right now, is that a dignified material? No. Does it have a stone mesa? Mm-mm. Is it too small? Yes. Does it have a relic? No. Is it movable? Yes. How many candles does it break? All of them. All of them. Right? So it has to be changed. So, right, this was sort of one of the precipices of this. It was just too small, but it also doesn't meet canon law. And it's what we call valid. We can say Mass on it, but illicit, meaning we really shouldn't be, right? And I know it's been this way, and I know priests have ignored it, and I understand that. I'm a foot soldier, not a general, right? I mean, if it says it, we should do it, right? If it says it, we should do it. So the altar that we're getting and is already ordered, and actually that was paid for by a very generous donor, is a replica of the one at the Basilica of St. Francis of Assisi in Assisi. So it's going to be, it's not scale, because I think theirs is like 14 feet. I mean, it's like huge. You can have like 50 cardinals around that thing. But it's going to be, so, right, one of the things that I want to do personally, and we should be as a parish, historically, is tied to the founder of the parish. So if I were to blindfold you and drive you to St. Francis and bring you into the entrance and take off the blindfold and let you roam anywhere inside that didn't have a sign that had our name on it, how many of you would know intuitively that this parish is dedicated to the man, St. Francis of Assisi? Nobody. Right? Nobody. We have a statue of him, but he's next to Pio and Clare. Right? So could be Clare, could be Pio. Now there is the one window in the back of the small chapel that has him on there. But I've been in tons of churches that have depictions of St. Francis all over. St. Michael's has a garden to St. Francis. Guess what the parish of St. Francis has? No garden and no statue outside. We have a beautiful Holy Family. That's our statue outside. I mean, really, honestly, like, does that make sense? No, of course it doesn't. Right? So, what do we want to do? Well, we have to redo the stairs anyway, right? We're going to move the tabernacle. That's where it should be. It should have pride of place, the church says, in the church. Pride of place is the center, higher than me and higher than the ambo and higher than the altar servers. Right? So then we should have St. Francis up on our altar. So we're going to have 3 depictions in murals of St. Francis. This is a watercolor that I did not do. I couldn't do anywhere near this good, and so this just shows the general layout. So, okay, so how many of you are in the choir? You guys should have more reverberation. Now, why don't you have more reverberation? Because you have carpet. We're getting rid of the carpet. And we're putting in some sort of beautiful, I think a Spanish tile. This is not set in stone. We're going to redo the seating on the pews because they did those in 1995. And what year is it? 2018, right? They need to be done. So, see how there's a different ebb and flow to the stairs. It's kind of hard to see on this, I know. I also plan on having a nice big PowerPoint with this. But, right, we'll have better spaced stairs. The altar is one step higher with the tabernacle in the back. Now, this is what we call a reredos, this back part. And the reason it's called the reredos, because it's in the rear. And it's going to have what we call a triptych, which is 3 parts. See, the church isn't that smart, right? So this will be a mural of an angel. This will be a mural of an angel. Those are called traditionally in the Catholic Church adoring angels, right? And what are they adoring? Jesus Christ, truly present in the Blessed Sacrament in the tabernacle. In the back, we'll have this very beautiful and ancient depiction of a mural of St. Francis at the crucifix. Was St. Francis at the crucifix? No, he was not. Did he contemplate death and the crucifix a lot? Absolutely. That was his thing. We picture him with animals and stuff. But what he's most known for in ancient times was staring at the cross, right? Contemplating the suffering and death of Christ. So he will be at the center. So he'll be down here kneeling, embracing the crucifix, right? And this will be our Lord in the crucifix. Up here, how many have been to Assisi? Anyone? So there's a church there called Portiuncolo, right? Portiuncolo. That was the church that St. Francis hand built by himself. Rebuilt by himself, right? So he heard the cross of San Damiano speak to him, and it said, Frank, rebuild my church. He didn't say Frank, I don't think, but, right, Francis, rebuild my church. So St. Francis took that as a sign, went to this little church that was crumbling and built it, rebuilt it. On the very top of it, on the roof, there's a medallion that has Jesus and Mary, right, that's on there. That medallion there in the middle, Jesus and Mary, exactly like the one on the Portiuncolo in Assisi. And these are going to have some sort of symbolism, and the guy who designed all this told me, and I cannot remember. I think it has something to do with St. Francis. This is a depiction, right? So who's St. Francis always known to be with, right? St. Clare. St. Clare at this point, right? So he and St. Clare were good friends. There's a movie called Brother, Sister Moon and Brother, Sun and Sister Moon, right? It's a movie about this beautiful, prayerful, non-sexual relationship between Clare and Francis, right? So Francis was the one who was the spiritual director of Clare, and he presented her with her habit to start the Poor Clare Sisters, right? So that's going to be right here. So we'll have Francis handing Clare down here, right, her beautiful habit, of which she helped change the world with, right? So then, right, we all, once a year, a couple times a year, we do a litany of saints, right? And we say, like, you know, Saint Pio, pray for us. Saint Benedict, pray for us. Saint Donna, pray for us. Well, what always goes with Saint Francis? Saint Dominic. Saints Francis and Dominic, pray for us. Why? Because they were good friends, right? So they both lived in the early 1200s, and in 1220, when they go to get their papal bull to start their religious orders, the Franciscans started, or the orders of Friar Minor started by St. Francis, and the order of preachers started by St. Dominic, they met. And when they met, Dominic was wearing a rope with 3 little knots on it. And Francis said, "What's that?" "Well, that's our rope." "What are those knots?" "Well, that means poverty, chastity, and obedience." And he's like, let's switch. So Dominic took off the rope, handed it to Francis, and he took off his belt and handed it to the Dominican. So St. Dominic. So now, right, when you see Franciscans, they have a rope tied around their waist with 3 knots, right? That was given to them by St. Dominic. The Dominicans, I was a Dominican, order of preachers, we wore a belt with a rosary on it. That was given to us by St. Francis. So this intimate relationship between St. Dominic and Francis, that's why they're always mentioned together in the Litany of Saints, right? So I thought it would be nice, right, if we honored that by having a mural of St. Francis and St. Dominic. Down here, so this is our ambo. That's also new and coming. It has this it looks like a T, but it's actually not a T. It's called the tau. It's supposed to look like if St. Francis was standing there, but only his habit. So imagine just, right, it's supposed to, that's called the tau. And so that is an ancient, or not ancient, but old symbol of St. Francis. So that's going to be there, right? And down here will be a medallion. If you've ever seen our coat of arms for the St. Francis Parish, it's got the 2 arms crossed with a cross in the middle. That's St. Francis. He's the one who has the habit on, the clothes on, and Jesus, who, right, has nothing, and both of them, right, with the nail between their hand, because St. Francis had the stigmata. So, and also, one of the things about any church that's Catholic, look, right, anyway, what is the other name for the Middle Ages? The Dark Ages. Now, isn't that interesting? So when you walk into a Dark Ages church, what do you see lots of? Color. Blue, red, green, right? Purple. Like it's almost like medieval churches. When you walk into one that's especially been properly restored to its historical time, like it's awesome, right? So isn't it funny? The Dark Ages were some of the most colorful times in our church's architectural history. And we walk in 2018 at St. Francis, and what's our color? Brown. Brown is not a liturgical color. Neither is it a color of the church itself. Right? Brown is an earth color. Right? Liturgical colors are red, gold, white, green, purple. Not brown. We're supposed to be, you're supposed to walk into the church and it's supposed to excite your emotion. Right? It's supposed to like evoke an emotion from you. Part of that is done by color. Right? It's not, brown is not a liturgical color. Those slats going up and down, that like solidly puts us in 1995 or 1985.
Yeah, that's 85.
Right? All the churches around our diocese used to have those things. Right? So, right, just getting rid of those because they serve no liturgical function at all. They're not a liturgical color and they don't do anything. Right? And so we're going to put, this is called Sienna Red. And this isn't the perfect, because this is a dried watercolor, but it's going to be, right, this awesome red. And Sienna Red comes from the San Damiano cross, right? This color is on the San Damiano cross. So, right, again, putting us into St. Francis, right? And it should be, you're like, Father, that's really shocking. Like, that's a lot more shocking than what we have. You're dang right it is, right? Because we are people of color. Heaven, which this area is supposed to remind you of, is beautiful and awesome and shocking. More shocking than anything you've ever seen with your eyes. So to have a brown altar, we don't want a brown altar. We want a shocking altar. Because heaven is awesome and shocking. And this is going to be, trust me, it doesn't look as great as it should on this. Awesome and shocking. Right? Awesome and shocking. So, I went way longer than I wanted. And so we were going to have people write out questions. If you have some, just notes. I'm always hesitant to make things a public forum because then people are like, why are you so dumb, Father? And what, so, which is fine. I don't mind you saying that. But, so if you have something just specific, I know a question. I'm going to answer it. What are we going to do with the risen Christ and the saints, the prophets' names, and the fish and the loaves? The fish and the loaves are going to be built into the altar that we put in the Adoration Chapel. So it'll be the front altar, like this part. The saints, the prophets' names. What I would like to do is that when you enter the formations, the new formation center, right, because it's formation, and that's what the prophets do, is form us with their teaching. As you walk in, boom, right there, those names are facing, are right in front of you, right? And then with the risen Lord that was here, I think what I think we're going to do, and there's a little up in the air, but I swear we're going to do it, something like this. I think I'm going to take Claire, Francis, and Pio and put them in one beautiful area, like built like a reredos like this, but for the statues, right? And real candles, not the electric junk we got, right? Real candles. And then I think I'm going to use the first wall as a welcome table and the second wall for Pio, Francis, and Claire, and the last wall for the risen Christ. So we're not, right? We're not getting rid of him. He will still be there and all his beauty and glory. And really, right, it makes sense, right? Because we come into the church, right? It leads us towards heaven, culminated by the Blessed Sacrament. As we're going out, or as we're coming in and going out, right, we're having an encounter with the risen Christ, which that encounter, right, is with each other, with our love for one another, with all the things we do. So it's a proper place, right, for the Lord, the risen Lord to be, right? Because as we come in and go out, right, the risen Lord is with us. When we receive Him, Blessed Sacrament, right, that is the boom, source and summit.
And the crucifix?
The crucifix, I'm going to put that in the other chapel. So it'll be there. So this is we want, and then there's going to be a beautiful, you can't see it on this, a beautiful crucifix on the tabernacle as well. So, but it'll be a little smaller. Baptismal font will be here, where the Y is in the back, and it won't be flowing and big. It'll be more of a Romanesque one. So it'll be, then for the Easter Vigil, we're going to have to bring in a jacuzzi tub or something. I don't know what we're going to do. But it'll be, but that's where it should be, right? Because, right, coming into the church, right, you come in dirty, right? And then you get baptized. Get rid of your original sin. That's the entrance. As you come up the body of the church, if we could do it, and we cannot, I wish we could, we would have the confessionals here and here in the middle of the church. Why? Because along the way, as you're approaching heaven, you get dirty and you need to be washed. Right? So if we could, and we can't, we would have those right here and right here. So that as you approach heaven, right, the sanctuary area, you're free and clear, right, to receive Jesus Christ. All of this represents heaven itself. And so at the end of our life, right, after we've journeyed through baptism, journeyed through the world, that's what the nave represents, and get to the sanctuary, right, we're fully clean. But unfortunately, there's just no way to rearrange our church to do that. So we're going to have the confessionals back in this chapel, the back chapel, instead of Father Martin's office and back there. Who doesn't like going to confession? Not because I mean, but because you can hear every word everybody says, right? We're going to try to solve that. So at this point, right, thank you for coming. I'm sorry it's took this long, but I appreciate you coming. I really hope that you will pray for this campaign, but really, I really hope you'll support it, right, by giving a financial donation. So we have lots of people. Who's on the committee already? So we have several committee members who are here. They've heard much of this spiel or all of it. They're dedicating. Oh, good. So the campaign timeline is going to be, right now, we're just planning it, getting it ready. The committees are meeting. We're trying to get the top donors. The real public part of the campaign will kick off July 15th, mid-July. So we're going to be making videos. We're going to be having more information sessions. We're going to be inviting people to have some lunches and dinners. Then there'll be some of the major gifts are being procured right now, but the main part of the campaign begins mid-July. Our timeline for the projects, right, this is just real quick. Next year, as we enter into summer, so like late May, redo the bathrooms and redo the altar area, because we're going to have to say Mass during that summer over in that FLC in the gym. So I'm praying and hoping. They said like 2 to 3 months, which means like 5 or 6, right? So if it could be like 5 months, that would be perfect. We could start classes just a little late and be fine, right? So that would be finished, and then the next phase would be redoing the FLC as far as like the floors and the carpets and everything, get them ready for classes. So bathrooms, altar area, FLC once we're done destroying it by having masks in there, right? Then start the new building in 2020. That'll be finished sometime in 2021. So probably like August, September of 2020, start the building. That'll put it at August, September, October of 2021, right? Then when that's done, the last thing we'll do is the parking lot, because there'll be trucks and vehicles, and right, we don't want to destroy a brand new tarmac by putting it on and then having it driven over by heavy equipment and bulldozers. So that's essentially the timeline. Be flexible with that, because if you've ever had a house redone or anything, you know how you just have to be flexible, right? And I'm asking for that as well.
Where in the property is the new building?
Where the Knights of Columbus and the scout rooms are in that area. So that strip of grass that are really our last piece of land. So we have to use it wisely. We have to use it wisely.
Those buildings that are there now?
No, those will come down. Have you been inside those buildings?
Yes.
Yeah, you'll know why they.
We need help.
Yeah. I'm not even sure I want them inspected, right? Because they're spongy and
The outreach building will stay the same.
outreach is going to stay the same. There's this weird rumor that we were going to tear down outreach. If you've heard that, have you met me? Like, I love outreach, so we would never get rid of outreach. Never. Well, thank you very much, and thanks for coming, and please support us with your prayers and financially.